Hello and welcome to the Independent Dealer Podcast brought to you by Buckeye Risk Services. Luke, you are still not a familiar background we got going on. What's happening there?
No,
What's new?
I'm at TIADA conference, getting to talk to a bunch of dealers, and yeah, a lot of fun.
Great, man. Great. We caught you on location in your natural habitat. This is exciting.
It's the best, the bear in its natural habitat.
Yeah, so it looks like if you guys are on the YouTube, you're gonna be able to see all sorts of familiar faces creep
No, they
across his
actually have they have
camera.
all gone upstairs now, so
Okay.
it's just another bunch of people walking by,
These are random hotel goers, huh?
random convention people.
So speaking of, how's it going? I mean, a lot of the state conventions are happening through the summer and other things going on. How's the turnout there? Good?
Yeah, really good. I think they said they had 380 people or so. And Texas is always, I mean, it's second to national when it comes to
A very close
uh
second.
yeah, very close second. And I mean, there's a lot of dealers in Texas, and they show up and they put on a great program. Uh, dealers are just trying to get better, Jeff. And there's a lot going on right now in the industry, and I think some of them are feeling the pain, some of them are having good days, some of them are having bad weeks. I don't know what to say. It's different than we've seen in a bit.
Yeah, let's talk about that. But they asked you to speak there. Is that what you're doing?
No, they didn't, Jeff. They did not ask either one of us to speak here, and I found that to be very odd and a little hurtful. Um, but I love dealers, so I like to come and talk to them and see what's going on. So,
You're just
trying
showing up
to
out of the fun of it. Just
just
because
showing up
for
out of the fun
punishment.
of it, trying to get some some consulting clients, and maybe walk away with a few.
You're out there suitcasing. I get it.
I'm
Okay.
see. Well,
So
I'm actually working for Buckshire, or not Buckshire, Buckeye Risk Services while I'm out here, and that's what my badge said, which I'm really not. I'm just out here, you know, talking to
okay.
dealers and hanging out. It said, Jeff, you'll love this. It said influencer on my badge.
Oh wow. Whom do you influence?
That's I'm a bad influencer, is
Yeah,
what it
that's
said.
true, man. Might influence my choices at the buffet line, but I don't
Yeah. By the way, Jeff, for y'all, you may have seen that Jeff made me look super fat in the thumbnail on YouTube this past week. And Jeff, why did you do that to me?
I
And
didn't do it. We're gonna have to talk to our producer about that.
I don't know.
She
I don't know.
may
I
have
don't know
chosen
what
it.
this.
I haven't seen it to be honest with you, so I don't know. But
And you didn't even respond when I asked you about it.
well, you can't ask me. I don't do it. Text the right
I
person.
don't blame this on Ella. This had nothing to do with her. This is you, buddy.
Okay, let's get to business. The guys, they don't tune into this to hear you freaking complain about everything. Maybe you should lose some weight and we wouldn't have these problems. I don't know why you're blaming the camera. It adds 10 pounds.
Ah,
This time it added 20 pounds. I'm not sure you've looked in a mirror lately. So
that's really not nice, Jeff.
so other than your depression and your GLP-1 journey you'll be on soon, what is going on out there? What's the mood of the dealers? And Texas is a very heavy buy here, pay here state, right? I would say at that convention, it's probably easily, 60-40, 70-30 buy here, pay here dealers, right?
Uh, for sure,
So
for sure. And
what's the mood? How does it feel? Are people excited? Are they scared? Is the sky falling? Are we like,
it's not the sky.
holding our
The sky.
nose?
It's not the sky falling. Um, it's not. And one encouraging thing, I talked to a few dealers, and they're all trying to deleverage, which I love. It's like how can we get out from this that we put ourselves under? So a lot of people are not trying to grow the portfolio; they're trying to level it out, pay down debt. The ones that have debt are trying to pay it down. There's been a lot of banks, wanting to call people's loans, and so they're trying to get in the right position so that they don't have that. Um, there's no sky falling situation. I think everybody understands that it's back to hard work,
Mm.
and they're feeling that. Some people have gotten rid of some staff to try to right size there, and that's put them back to work a little bit. Um, it- so I think it's back to the grind is what I'd
Mm.
have to say. Sales are decent. This
Mm.
time of the year, it's so hot out here, and it's so hot in a lot of places in the country that you know cars break. Um, so I think it's just that time of the year where it feels harder than it maybe is.
It's a grind, let's
It's a
say.
grind. It's a grind. Yeah. It's
I
time to
would
get it's time for tax season again, right? Let's get something fun going on.
I like December, January can't come soon enough.
Yeah.
Um, shout out to TaxMax. I want to understand from a lender standpoint, the big guys that are providing capital, like I wonder what their intake looks like right now, like their applications. Is it the same for them? Is it kind of like all hands on deck? Let's just get through this. We're not extending new lines. We're not, looking at applications. We're really just trying to keep the wheels on right now from our current clientele. It'd be very, very interesting to be a fly on the wall at Texas Capital or Primal End or any of these
Yeah.
other guys.
Yeah. I've heard that I've heard it's really hard to get money out of any of these lenders lately.
Hmm.
And I'll leave it at that.
I wonder what'll
Um,
happen if the Fed cuts rates. Is that going to change things, or is it already kind of baked in?
I don't think the rate's the problem.
Hmm.
I don't think the rate's the problem. I think over the leverage
Well,
is
it
the problem.
exacerbates the problem, let's say.
Yeah, it doesn't help it for
Not
sure.
that not
But
not that a half a point is going to make a difference when you're, yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's not.
upside down, but
It's just there's been, in 21, 22, and maybe some of 23, we just put on a lot of bad loans. A lot of people did.
hmm.
Um, Bad loans as in higher ACVs than we should have, and that was partly due to
Well,
car cost. Um,
I
and
mean, I got to push back on the should have. Higher than we would want to, but it was necessary. I mean, it had to
maybe it
happen,
was.
right? I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe it
it's
was.
just,
Maybe it was.
I mean, even now, cars cost more, people had less down. I'm still doing it. So I don't understand. Like, my ACV hasn't dropped. I'm still putting on a more expensive car with less of a markup. So I'm putting more cash on the street than I probably ever have. I don't see what else I'm supposed to do.
Um, I don't have an answer to that. I
Not
think that
sell
if
cars.
you went up too much, if you made too much of a jump trying to stay in the car that you had, maybe there's a middle ground somewhere where you didn't have to jump from a 4,000 ACV to an 8,000 ACV. Maybe you could have jumped to a 6,000 ACV. May have been the best logic there. Um, Either way, the severity of the loss has got so bad that it's creating problems um, with people's credit lines
Mm.
because the accounts receivable aren't growing like they were because of the high ACVs. Um, and it's just hurting all around. And the the account value is coming down, and the credit lines are going up, so that margin there is getting is slimmer and slimmer.
Yeah. Yeah, we should explain that borrowing basis, debt leverage, uh, vortex. What do you
That's a good
call
word
it?
for it.
Yeah,
That's
you
a
call it like a black hole, like a downward. What are the things that go down? Not a tornado, those go up. A
Come
vortex
on,
in the
the
water, right? It's going to suck you in.
vortex.
Because
Yeah,
what happens?
it's a
So let's
toilet bowl. You're looking for a toilet bowl.
there you go, right down the shitter. So if I put out a high ACV car, right? Let's say I'm whatever, 20 grand is my contract note, right? Let's say I contract at 20 grand and my bank is going to give me 50 or 60 cents on the dollar, right?
Let's call it 10 grand. Make it easy.
Yeah, let's say they gave me 10 grand. Now, I was into the car 10 grand. So, I kind of break even on that situation. Now, if that customer is paying me over the course of a year or two, obviously I'm paying down the borrowing basis a little bit on that
Maybe.
unit, let's
Hopefully.
say. I get to keep a little bit of that for my profit to keep the doors open because that's the agreement with the bank, but they want their money back quick. So say I repo that thing prematurely or something happens because all of a sudden my repos jump up and at the same time the value of that collateral is dropping way quicker than it should be, or that customer is paying because maybe I extended term a little bit, right? To keep that payment affordable. Now all of a sudden I they started at 20 grand. They still owe me 18 grand. And I maybe paid down the 10 grand that I owed the bank, maybe down to 8 grand. But what happens when I repo that car and it
And
went
it's
from
worth
being a
six.
$10,000 ACV down to a $6,000 ACV, but I still owe the bank 8 grand on it. And I
You're
just
two
repoed it and it's worth six.
you're 2 grand upside down.
I am now upside down. So what do I have to do? Well, I need to recon it and flip it back out there to get it back into my portfolio. But guess what? This time I can only do the 6 grand after recon because I have no money to put into it because I'm cash broke at this point. I'm going to flip it back out there at like 12 or 13 grand, but I still owe eight. So I went from being 50% leveraged up to 80% leveraged on the exact same car
Exactly right.
just overnight.
Overnight. And I think this is happening to people. And so it's something you got to be very, very careful of. And I talked to you about this over the past couple of weeks that I think 35% is where you have to be. You got to train yourself to only take 35 cents whenever you put a new loan out there because of this exact scenario. Because if we talked about this scenario if with somebody getting 35%, then I think the cycle doesn't happen because then you're back below. You're not upside down long.
Well, the
At
more
50,
conservative you can be, the best, right? I mean, whether
yeah,
it's
yeah.
35 or whether it's zero, like some
Zero.
people
It's
floor
even
to
better.
that.
It's even better. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you do that then? Give me the practical steps for the dealers that are listening and say, yes, I want to stop borrowing so much from my line of credit, but how do I do that?
The first spot is to look at your expenses and your personnel. I, I mean, it's that simple. Advertising and personnel. And if
Well,
you can look at those and the ancillary expenses that you probably don't need, uh, you've got to bring all that in and say, okay, you know what? For the next 2 years, I'm going to do it all myself because I'm gonna do my best to take this borrowing base that I have down to as close to zero as I can get it. That means me not buying, a Porsche next week, or me
mhm,
not buying a boat, or me not buying a second house, whatever it is. You've got to be determined that the,
mhm.
the most important thing for me is to lower that that debt ratio.
That's interesting. It's an interesting concept because it's hard to do. It takes discipline, and you don't really know where to do it at because if you do it at the expense of your ACV, now you're dealing with a cheaper car that's sometimes more headache and you're not used to selling. Does that slow sales down to the point where you're now worried?
Yeah.
I would argue that slowing, oh, being too aggressive with your sales is where you get into trouble, right? These guys scale up and they're like, we got to be 50 cars, we got to be 100 cars. That means I have to have this high overhead, which means I need to borrow this much every single month. Whereas if they said, hey, let's cut that back maybe a little bit and have lower overhead, borrow less. And yes, we're going to sell less cars, but we're going to do it maybe a little more conservatively.
I think that the idea of growth has to leave your mind at some point, and you have to level.
Hmm.
And even if you have to dip a little bit during that level, you, you're fine. But
Hmm.
the growth at all costs, and I think somebody said before on the podcast, they're going through debt, not off the balance sheet, right? And that's
Hmm.
kind of what happens here.
Hmm.
Ah,
Interesting.
pull
So,
it back, pull it back if you have to.
wh-
Just pull it back.
and so we can wrap this into our previous 2 or 3 episodes we've had with you guys about your mid-year financials, right? Hopefully you've gotten everything to your accountant by now. Hopefully you're getting your mid-year quarterlies together, reconciled in concrete. And I got mine back last week. And so I go through and I look at that and I take my per car cost, right? Because that's kind of what a lot of it in the industry we use as a gauge is. So I look at my first 6 months of operations and I figure out how many cars I sold through buy here, pay here in retail because I'm a mixed store. Obviously, my QuickBooks isn't separate, it's all together. So I'm a blended rate, which means mine's going to look worse than normal, right? If I was 100% buy here, pay here, I would have these much better grosses because my retail grosses are just naturally smaller, right? So I've got this
Hmm.
blended rate. But what it's going to do is give you this per car metric of all the major categories that you need to be paying attention to, which we talked about just now, operating overhead or what are my fixed costs to sell a car. Um and I look at my fixed expenses to sell a car are only about $400 less than what I make when I sell a car. and
Hope
guess
your
what
hope your interest income's really good.
and guess what my commission per car is? About 400
$400
bucks. So and
means you
that's
got
what
to sell more
exactly
cars. You
and
got to
that's
sell more
what
cars. You got to cut costs.
Well, that's what my bottom line tells me. And it says, Jeff, 2025 is going to be a year where you are right in the gray. You're not in the red, you're not in the black. I don't know what color that is in between, but I'm going to just be sitting right on the in between for 2025. And this is unfortunately the first 6 months are the best months of the year. That's when you should be making all your money through tax time. If you're a buy here, pay here, that's where my
Yeah.
grosses are the best. So I'm a little worried for the rest of 2025 to play out for me. This might be one of those years where I get to bring some money back in from my reinsurance company because I'll have a loss that can offset it. on the dealership side, maybe. So
I think
who
I think
knows?
I think talking to a lot of dealers though, if they can get through 2025 at a zero, you know, net zero, they're going to be happy.
Yeah. What are you seeing for charge-offs when you talk to these guys?
Woo.
If I'm a buy here, pay here dealer listening right now, and I'm tracking my 2025 charge-offs, what should they look like 6 months in from both maybe a delinquency or a total charge-off percentage, would you say?
Well, I think I saw something the other day that said that subprime over 60 was the highest it's been. It's it's up 700 basis points from last year. It's at 6.3%. That's high. And
Believe it.
a lot of people in the buy here, pay here space don't even let people get to 60 days. And so,
Yeah.
um, I, so they're already a charge off, right? So it's high. Charge offs are high. Severity of charge offs are really high. Um, we have to be we have to be we have to be very specific about, okay, are we going to recycle this inventory? And if we are, we've got to be very specific that we can somehow make them meet our standards. But I think
Mm,
wholesale prices on this rougher unit is down. You can see that they're not just bringing whatever right anymore.
mm.
So we need to be very specific. We need to have an idea of, okay, we are going to have to recycle these cars, um, because we can't take the losses that's going to come from just a straight wholesale loss. Um,
Yeah, you definitely got to get more resourceful.
yeah.
And that
Um, and,
sucks. I get it. You want fresh inventory, but
and I was talking to a dealer that's out here, and he's got a whole separate lot where he sells the the repos that
mm,
that are recycles. It's like, you got your, let's call it your prime buy here, pay here lot,
yeah, yeah, makes
and then you
sense.
have your
Scratching
sub
bin, the bargain
your
bin.
scrap yeah your bargain bin, buy here, pay here lot. There's something to that if you're big enough to handle something like that. I always thought that selling those cars to cat for cash was a good option too, that because it generates cash and maybe you can go back out and buy a better buy here, pay here car than what you had. So I think there's options. I think dealers need to be smart about those options because the charge offs are coming and they're going to continue to come. So, backing off sales is one thing, Jeff, but when you back off sales and charge offs go up real fast, you can get a double whammy to your portfolio. That's a problem, especially if you're over leveraged. Then you're in a real pickle.
Yeah, yeah, you're definitely getting pickled in that situation. It's hard. That would be hard for me to just say you got to double down and like get a push through. Like things aren't good, charge offs are high, but what that means is now instead of me selling 50 cars, I got to sell 100 because not only do I got to replace the 50 that came off, but I got to add 50 to grow. Um, that
Yeah,
and you,
let's talk about that though, Jeff. There's going to be months in the year where you're not going to grow and you're not going to level. You're going to go
I've had
backwards.
years. I'm
Yeah,
on a couple years of no growth.
yeah. So that's not what you don't want to see is losing 100 accounts. If you're, let's call you're a 5 to 700 account dealership, and all of a sudden you lost 100 accounts, there's a real problem there that you need to address. But if
Mm,
you lose 10, and then the next month you gain three, then you lose five, or you don't want to see those huge drops. That's when you're in trouble.
yeah. I want to go back to that charge off number. So for me, I am about 8% year to date charge off. So
Hmm.
if that continues, I'm going to end in that 16 area.
Which
You
is fine.
under 20 is typical. You look at like your charge offs equal your interest rate. So if my interest rate for everyone's 24.9 across the board, my charge offs, 24% charge off would, kind of mitigate my interest income. Uh, it's much better than 2024 was. I mean, my 2024 was horrid, let's say, as far as charge offs go. Um, I'm always probably 4 to 6 months behind the rest of the country for some reason, just
Yeah, it is weird, but yeah.
my area. Um, and that being said, I'm having a great year, man, as far as charge-offs go and as far as delinquencies go. I'm down in the single digit one day $1. My recency's been 98 recency for months. Um, I've got the lowest outstanding dollar amount that I've had in quite a while, the last 3 months. So
I
I'm
think
pretty
I think
good.
our customer I think our customer's getting slow. I don't know if they're getting worse. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
I just think it's taking, where typically we would see, and I'm talking about 30-day loans, monthly loans here. You would see a 30-day recency. The problem is now they're sliding into that 40-day recency.
Mm.
And that just creates it's a compounding effect every time they do that. And so whatever your payment scale is, you need to really try to keep them as close to it as possible. Like, you know, if you're 7-day, you need to have 7-day recency, right? If you're 14-day, you
Yeah.
need to have 14-day. And so that's the goal, I think.
Do you think this is exacerbated in those border communities like Texas, where this immigration?
There's a lot of talk, man. There's a lot of
Do you hear that there at convention that they're like, hey, we're
yeah.
just having voluntary surrenders because people are self-deporting or getting deported?
There's probably brought up to me more than anything was ICE um, while we were here.
Wow.
So it's like, man, what have you heard about ICE? And I mean, I would love to have somebody on talk about that. It's more, it has more to deal with it than I do. Of course, I have zero of that. And Jeff, you may have a little bit of that up there. Um, but it's a real thing here in Texas, and the dealers are worried about it.
Yeah. I mean, we had a handful right at the beginning of the year, some folks that self-deported or um, but not many that I know of that are, you know, being snatched up and sent out. And we were fairly conservative on ITINs and non-citizen, but we've definitely been more aggressive in the last 12 months than ever before. So back in '08 when this went down, the housing market crashed and everyone just left because there
Hmm.
was no building industry left. I know lenders back then that were heavy in the Hispanic and the undocumented that really took it on the shorts, and they were over the border trying to pick up dozens of cars. Um, I didn't participate in that demographic back then, so I didn't get hurt in that area. Mine was all the trailer parks that collapsed, to say it nicely. Um, but someone like that is heavy in that demographic, I'd be interested. You're right. It'd be cool to get the perspective on what do you do in that situation. And as an overall philosophy, and to give dealers practical info from this episode, what do you do in those situations where you realize your delinquency is creeping up and your 60 days gone up and your recency is getting worse? What are you doing to try to save those accounts, or because we still don't want to repo the car, right? We just told you that if you repo the car, you bring it in a new ACV, then you go to try to resell it. All you're doing is wrecking your borrowing basis right off. So
Hmm.
it's still not optimal, but what are some practical steps dealer can do to try to save it before then?
Um, Deferrals.
Okay.
Um, you know, I was communication is so key. You got a customer that is good at communicating. It's just falling on some hard times. Maybe look at look at what your lender tells you can do when it comes to to deferrals. Can you give one a year? Can you give two a year? Can you give one a loan or three a loan or whatever the number is? And if you need to defer one to get them back to current, do it. As long as you're within your covenants, because deferrals will save loans done properly. You can't overuse them. So that'd be the first thing I would look at doing.
Interesting. I agree with that 100% within parameters, just like during COVID times, we gave out a lot of deferrals, but people had to jump through, three specific hoops to qualify for that. So it's, help me help you type
Yeah,
situation. So I'm okay with those. Obviously they can become a collector's crutch where they're just handing out deferrals like candy and
yeah.
so very, very tight reins on those for your collectors. Um, but what does it matter really? I mean, if you push this loan out an extra month or two, in the grand scheme of things, it don't matter. 75% of it's uncollectible anyways. So it doesn't do a lot. Now, what you don't want to do is just kick the can down the road on a repo. And that's when I talk about jumping through the hurdles, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have very specific qualifications this customer has to meet to get a deferral. So you're not
Does
just
the yeah.
kicking the can down the road
The key question is, does their customer really care?
and
And if they
capable.
and capable, and if they do, then help.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that I think that will save more accounts than you think.
The other thing you can do is we try to settle a lot on repos or delinquencies or past due and especially on my super low ACV. I look at some of these cars, and if it's across the country and the guy owes me 5 grand on a 2001 Saturn SL1, like I'm gonna take 500 bucks, and I'll push it all the way up to repo, and then I'll do the best I can to not repo that car and throw good money after bad. I mean, I think that
There's
pretty practical should go without saying, but I think sometimes our collectors are just in the mode of repoing. Hey, he's late. We need to repo it. And I'm like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes. This car is halfway across the country. He's been sleeping in it. The last thing we want to do is pay to have it repoed, pay to have it transport, pay to have it cleaned, pay the auction a bunch of fees, and we end up with $10 at the end of the day. Like it's silly.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to use your brain. If you have I've told my collectors, just try to get the extra dollar, right? I mean, try to get something. We don't want that car. Like this
And
is a,
promise them the title. Hey man, you can pay me 500 bucks. I can get the title sent to you.
this car has been out for 3 years. I mean, what do you think it's like? I mean, truthfully, we can look at the GPS and see they've driven it 115,000 miles. I mean, what do we
Yeah,
think we have here? You
right.
collect every dollar you can, and when they quit collecting, we'll just charge it off.
Yeah. Or like I said, I make a deal with them and I say, if I can get a hold of the customer, hey, I want to get you this title. Can you pay another $500 over the next 3 weeks and I'll mail you the title?
Yeah,
Like I don't care. I'm not I don't collect on people's deficiencies. I'm not sending them to small claims court and garnishments. It's not what I do. But so anyways, you look at those creative ways um to mitigate the losses because there's also the downside of if I can have a couple less repos clogging up my shop,
yeah,
then my mechanics can get to the ones that are really worth it,
yeah.
and the ones that
Mhm.
I can recycle, that I want to recycle. Now I'm not worrying about the logistics of transport and repo fees and all these other things. I'm trying to make some deals here to make it a little less painful.
Yeah. Anything you can do to get an extra dollar out of that customer before you either have to repo or whatever, just do it.
Yeah.
Just try, and train your collectors to try. Sometimes they quit trying.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we didn't do a couple weeks ago, I hinted towards it, but Chad Martin really did me a pretty good solid the other day. If you guys are familiar with Chad, um his firm is MB Accounting and Consulting, and they're like fractional CFO guys. And we're gonna have Chad on to explain this a lot more, but he went through and gave me a static pool of my cars and their performances over the last, I don't know, he went back 10 years or something. I mean, it was pretty darn cool. Actually, back to 2020. So 5 years. And we looked at all the cars and at what point they charge off, right? So you look at all of my January 2020s and you can track those over 36 months, you know, the lengths of all the loans that I originated in January of 2020 and when did they start to really go bad? And that is a great exercise that you guys need to do. Um, if you can hire someone like Chad to do it, you could do it yourself. You can figure out spreadsheets. Um,
Doesn't I mean, don't most DMSs have a way to pull static pull or no?
I don't know. I don't know that IDMS does. I've never done it. So maybe,
I think they do.
yeah, some of them probably have it. I mean, the way that Chad did it in one spreadsheet with the colors and it kind of like fades across was really interesting to me because what I learned was my cars don't really charge off as bad as I thought. Right? Like I don't have a big seasonal charge off during tax time. I have a couple little pockets of months that were worse than others.
Yeah.
And it's hard, I could go back and try to figure out if it was underwriting, if it was mood, if it was, what it was. But what I learned was maybe I'm not being aggressive enough with my loans because I'm not really charging off that strong. A lot of my customers make it to the end. Like I look at the March, April, May tax time of 2020, 75% of my customers made it to the end of those loans.
I
Like
think if you
that's
look at
unheard of in buy here, pay here.
I think if you look at that time in our world, that you'll see that those were high rated loans, like they performed really well. Um,
It's a good point. in March of 2020, cars were still lesser, they were less expensive, and there was a lot of money being pumped into the system shortly thereafter. So yes, that window of auto loans that originated in 2020 and ran through 2022, 2023, they saw this increased asset value of their car. They were more likely to hold on to their car. They were getting COVID money.
Mhm.
I could definitely see why that subsection of loans would have performed well, uh, just because of the timing of the
And
general
the,
economy
and then
trajectory.
yeah, and the 19s probably did as well because they would have, got all that surge of money coming in. I think this is a great exercise. I mean, for sure. Um, and it gives you all this data and okay, well, the static pool says, okay, well, what cars perform the best? Because you have this bias in your head that thinks these are my best cars.
Mm,
But if you look at that static pool and you run it as okay by make and model, you may see it's something else. And so it gives you an idea of how to build your inventory buy list. All kind of great things. So definitely recommend getting that done.
yeah. I've never done it by make and model.
You should. It's interesting.
Yeah, is that, I mean, you have to have large enough sample sizes because they might say, yeah,
But
you
do
got to
you?
look at, yeah, because you got to have a large enough sample. If you had two, Silverado 2500s and they both ran the
Yeah,
loan,
you can't look at that. I'm talking about look at your Altimas versus your Accords versus your Camrys versus that
yeah,
type of stuff that you sell a good bit of, not these one offs. If you sell look at Ford Explorers compared to Traverses or Palettes or whatever you want to do there, and you'll see. Don't worry about the one offs. Worry about what your core business is.
yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Anything else, Luke, as far as charge off delinquencies, recency that's we need to be focusing on right now?
Use Blitzpay to help collect this money. I mean, honestly, the better collection tools you have, the better your charge off rate's going to be, and the better your delinquency rate's going to be. The ease of pay options really helps for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't overstate that enough. And as AI becomes more integrated into these, and I
Oh
know
man,
Blytzpay is
yeah.
working on an AI component, just how much more useful it will make your collector to have an AI agent interacting and staying on top of it. Because again, it's the communication. You've got to hit them at the right time when they're not at work. They've got their phone. They're in the mood to respond to you. And if the AI can figure out when that is and say, hey, I can't text them between 9 and 5. Well, that's when my collectors work. They're only here from 9 to 5. Like I need to be texting them at 6:15 every single night, and I need to do 200 people at 6:15. Like your collectors can't do that, but AI can do that.
And
So I
automation and
definitely look
automation as
forward to
well.
the day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going to be at a dealer's tomorrow that's using a lot of AI across the board in their dealership,
that's how it
from
goes.
from collections to sales. And I may dig in a little bit and see what's going on. May report back. He doesn't like to talk a lot.
He likes to talk a lot. He doesn't like
He
to talk
does.
on camera
Yeah.
at all. All
Yes.
right, Luke. Well, have fun out there, and we will talk to you next week.
All right, buddy.
Thank you for listening. Please leave us a review. We'll catch you in the next episode.